Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, members of the Bulgarian delegations, dear journalists. I'm happy to greet the Bulgarian delegation led by Prime Minister of Bulgaria, Kirill Petkov. Mr. Prime Minister, last time we saw each other a bit more than 2 months ago, and that was the first time we met at the Munich conference, Munich Security Conference, in fact. And we were discussing Ukraine, which was craving for peace. And Russia assured us that they were not going to attack. You remember, Cyril, how it was, but for 64 days now we have been witnessing the worth of those statements. For 64 days they have been attacking our country, our nation, our people, our civilians, our military, ruining everything, killing every living person, just common people, destroying the infrastructure, schools, kindergartens, universities, hospitals. For 64 days we've been standing up to it, and they will never overcome our resistance. They will just have well-deserved despise and from all the world. All the world is with Ukraine, and that includes Bulgaria. And thank you, Mr. Petkov. Thank you, Bulgaria. We've had very essential negotiations discussing all the key issues. And right now, in such difficult conditions, Ukraine, as never before, requires support from our reliable partners to protect the right to life for our people, for our statehood, our statecraft, our European future. But this fight is not just about Ukraine. It's in Ukraine we are protecting values of all Europe and all the world, freedom for every European nation. And right now in Ukraine, right here, we are trying to decide whether the peoples of Europe can live freely and democratically. Talking to Prime Minister of Bulgaria, we discussed the interplay to repair of the Ukrainian armored vehicles using the manufacturing facilities of Bulgaria. And I'm convinced that this cooperation is going to be a mutual benefit for the Bulgarian companies, the Bulgarian economy, and for us, what matters is Bulgarian quality and the deadlines, because we fight every day. We discussed our energy supplies to Bulgaria, electric power, and diversification of supply of natural gas in the region via the Trans-Balkan pipeline together with the Bulgarian party. We've reached agreements for transportation of grain from Ukraine via Varna seaport in Bulgaria, and we have great prospects of such arrangements. The Ukrainian side will provide all the necessary facilitation for the Bulgarian vessel blocked at Chornomorsk. And I would like to thank His Excellency for the stance of the government in support of the sanction policy of the European Union. I would like to emphasize that sanctions against Russia are needed only for one thing, for them to seek peace. And this should be powerful, this should be effective, and exclude any opportunity to bypass their limitations. So I count on Bulgaria supporting strengthening of sanctions because of this war. And we discussed separately our path to the EU. I'm grateful to His Excellency for his unwavering and consistent support of the European future for Ukraine. In February, back at the Munich Security Conference, we signed our joint declaration on the Ukrainian prospects in the EU, and Bulgaria is still supporting the candidate status admission for Ukraine for the next meeting of the European Council. I'm very happy that our partners recognize that Ukraine deserves and have already earned its fast-track procedure for accession to the European Union. I would like to thank Kirill Petkov for his personal initiative concerning collection of funds, fundraising in favor of Ukraine. He inspired thousands of his compatriots with his initiative to donate more than 90,000 Ukrainian women and children who were fleeing from the horrors of war, found their refuge in Bulgaria. Thank you very much for your hospitality and for your human and very much humane treatment of our compatriots. I would like to thank Prime Minister of Bulgaria for his readiness to participate in the reconstruction of Ukraine after the war in one of the southern regions of Ukraine in our big program of reconstruction and renovation for Ukraine. We believe that very soon we'll be able to bring all our people back home and reach the level of cooperation and mutual understanding that we enjoy with Bulgaria. That we want to have with all the world, all the European family, united by the history and most importantly by the future that we share. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thanks to your colleagues and to your people and to your state.
A statement by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Bulgaria.
Уважаеми господин президент, dear President of Ukraine, dear ministers, dear colleagues, first I want to thank you for the leadership that you have shown, leadership not only for Ukraine, but for the free world as a whole. Ukraine will win this war, and all of the democratic countries will stand behind you. There is no doubt in my mind that's the only outcome that will happen. I want to thank you for the great discussion we had today. We have so many areas of support and synergies that we can do together. Bulgaria will be happy to facilitate the export of Ukrainian electricity into Bulgaria and the Balkans. That would give us a great opportunity to have additional supply of electricity, but also will give you free capital for you to use that's much needed here. Bulgaria will be more than happy to have Varna as a logistics hub for the grains and sunflower, and to distribute a lot of the grains that you cannot use through your ports, Varna to be there, to be a central logistic point for you. Also, when we talk about energy security, Bulgaria can be instrumental in assisting Ukraine by actually using the Trans-Balkan pipeline, that we can deliver gas from the LNG terminals in Greece and Turkey into Ukraine. That would give both of our countries lower cost and availability of supply. Also, in terms of your invitation for Bulgaria to participate in the reconstruction of Ukraine, we'll be more than happy to do it. We have many cities and towns with a lot of Bulgarian-speaking Ukrainians, and Bulgaria would be happy to be a constructive part of this. Thank you so much for your offer for helping our ship leave Chernomorsk. I know it's not easy, but I'm very thankful that we will have an organized plan for our sailors to return back home and our ship to return back home, and for the sailors to see their families again. Your request for military technical assistance in regards to reconstruction and renovation of some of the heavy machinery in the Bulgarian factories would be a good opportunity for Ukraine and a good opportunity for Bulgaria to do this repair for Ukraine. It's very important for Bulgaria, Ukraine to see a clear path to the European Union. It's time for us to say this is where Ukraine belongs. Ukraine is part of the European family, and we should give a clear sign and a clear path as soon as possible. So you have a strong voice. of Bulgaria when we meet with my other European colleagues. So in this regard, I want to come soon again to Ukraine to celebrate victory for Ukraine and to celebrate the fast path forward to being part of the one European family together. In the meantime, all these specific points are a great synergy for both countries, and Bulgaria is happy to stand by and support in all available means. In this respect, I want to thank you again for your time, and I look forward to cooperation on all these topics as soon as possible.
Thank you, sir.
We should have one.
Дякую, шановні журналісти. Маєте можливість.
Thank you, dear journalists. This is your time to put questions. BTB, please.
Mr. Zeleski, Bulgaria declares support to Ukraine, but our country haven't still decided to provide military support to Ukraine. Would you still consider it a friendly and supportive country if such decision is not taken? And if you discussed already with Mr. Petkov about military support, did you already discuss some specific support that we could provide you, some weapons and some in specifics?
Thank you very much for this question. I'm absolutely frank, and I have been frank as a president of a country at war. I can afford this, like any Ukrainian, to save some dialogue, empty dialogue that makes no sense, and save time cutting on that. I would like to thank Prime Minister for just helping us, not just willing to help, not promising, but helping. Every country helps as much as they can. Sometimes some countries have 1,000 aircrafts and would not donate a single one. Some countries provide more than they can afford themselves. So Bulgaria is among the friendly countries from the second list I was discussing earlier, helping with different steps, the sanctions and support of our admission and accession to the European Union, and repair of the very important military equipment that can save human lives in Ukraine. This is also support for our defense and protection of our country. I think that you have something to be proud of, and some people you can be proud of in your country.
Nadia Yurchenko, Ukrinform.
Nadia Yurchenko. My first question is to Prime Minister of Bulgaria. The Russian military leaders have recently announced new targets of the so-called special operation, in reality an invading war, which is about taking over Odessa and the Transnistrian region with complete domination in the Black Sea. Does Bulgaria see any threats for itself in respect of this? Also, in the light of the promised support to Ukraine with repairs of military equipment from Ukraine and the use of the Varna port as a hub, do you see any prospects of enhancing security in the Black Sea to counteract those attempts by Russia? And the question to Mr. Zeleski. Presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak mentioned recently that legal advisors are preparing a basic agreement on security guarantees, which will involve certain package decisions on offer. Could you enlighten us what it will be about, whether it will be about countries taking some joint commitments on themselves, or it would be some individual one, on it, whether it will be about an umbrella solution?
You know, after the non-working Budapest memorandum as the president and guarantor of the Ukrainian constitution, I wouldn't have any patchwork umbrellas for us. It's better to face your enemy than have a big company of friends who are not prepared to protect and defend you. So we are very serious about this future document, and we have a well-crafted and well-weighed approach to the partner countries for the selection of the partner countries that wouldn't let us down in case of any kind of aggression. Anything can happen in that future. Mind you, I think that currently it's important to solve the problem of this war with the Russian Federation and regain our territorial integrity. We already understand that it is not easy for us to have such neighbors. So we're talking a fundamental agreement here, fundamental commitments on the part of the guarantor countries. That's our approach to this issue. I cannot just simply outline in a couple of words, outline this agreement, because the agreement and the guarantees are very substantial and more essential than just words that I might use to describe them. Behind those words, we have human lives, you know. So we approach this in a fundamental fashion. This is being drafted. It is true that the security advisors or representatives or specific leaders of the might be guarantors. They are getting together. They are discussing issues at different levels, online and offline. This is true. And very soon, when everything is ready, I think that by all means, our society and our journalists will see the detail of the future agreement and future arrangements. Believe me, we would like to get as much as possible for our country, for our motherland, and for our people. We want the most of it, and the guarantees will be united and unilateral. They will be different, but let's wait and see how the well-designed and finalized result looks, if you can wait.
And to your question, first of all, today was very important to see how the war looks on the ground. I was touched when I saw residential buildings being bombarded in a small community that doesn't even have military around it. The most touching scene I saw today was a toy, a children's toy, amidst the rubbles of a residential building that had been hit by a Russian rocket. So I cannot tell that this is military operation or a special operation. This is war on civilians. And now I even more strongly do not regret for firing my defense minister for using the word special operations. Nobody should put anything else when they see such horrifying pictures than war on the free world and war on civilians. So that's just addressing the military operation part. In terms of security, I believe what we discuss here, we have a very big potential to enhance security, especially on the southern Ukraine, by actually creating these logistics elements. If we can make sure that all the grains of Ukraine can be shipped in part through Bulgaria, even these additional security risks and inability to use your ports would be a good opportunity to show that there are alternatives when we're together. On the military help, it's very good to have a specific request. It's true that Bulgaria has factories that can repair heavy machinery, and I'll be more than happy to bring this to our government and to our parliament, the ability that we can repair this machinery and send back to Ukraine. In terms of direct threat at this point, we don't assess the risk of direct threat in terms of security risk for Bulgaria, but what we do assess is the direct threat on democracy. And anybody who believes that they have to be part of the free world have to stand behind Ukraine, even if they don't feel personally threatened. This is about morality, ethics, and view of how the world should work. And in this world that we would like to see, every country has a choice who to be with, in which club to be with, and how to manage its own future. No neighbor should be telling and restrict and create aggression on anybody else. And I still cannot believe the pictures that I saw, that this is 2022 in Europe. This is intolerable, and you have a very strong voice from Bulgaria in support on all these things that we discussed. Thank you.